Okay, welcome to this first part of a three-part video series regarding the new EDI functionality that's provided within the BlueSeer software package. As of version 6.3, BlueSeer now offers EDI functionality in the form of a new mapping editor and to go along with the engine translation tool that was already there in the previous versions, and then the processing and reporting capabilities of transactions being run through the engine is also there. We're going to look at, the first video is going to be looking at the mapping editor tool itself and the functions that accompany the tool. And we're going to go over this fairly quickly to try to keep it underneath a 30-minute window of a video. So some of the highlights of the mapping tool itself. It is not a web-based application. You do not use a browser for this. It is a desktop EDI mapping tool, much like the BlueSeer ERP package itself. It's similar to Excel or Word in its form of a desktop application. The editor is a simple text-based editor. It is not drag and drop. It does not have lines crisscrossing from left to right from source to destination. It is a text-based editor. Every map is essentially a Java class, so you will have to compile the map into a Java class, and it does have the compilation tools necessary. The editor does support up to Java 17, which I think is the latest long-term support version of Java. And it supports, right now it supports X12, Edifact, CSV, and flat file. And flat file being any type of flat file. It does have iDocs, and we do have sample iDocs here. But you can create any flat file associated with your, whatever the flat file is that is proprietary to your ERP, or whatever flat file you're actually trying to use. Future development, we're looking at doing a JSON and XML. As a matter of fact, JSON is currently in development right now, and I hope to have both of these released by the end of the year of 2022. Okay, some of the pros and cons of the mapping tool, and we'll start with the cons first. It is a text-based editor. There is no point and click. There is no drag and drop. Most proprietary systems drag from the left side to the right side, and you have lines crisscrossing the map. But this here is essentially a text-based editor, so you do have to write some commands. The biggest con right now is that with regards to commercial specifications, and I'm not talking about Edifact or any other file definitions, but X12 in particular, X12 specifications, the specification tools are not free, so they are not included in here. What we do have is structure files that are constructed from implementation guides of your trading partner. And so we do have a wide variety of structure files there. If there is not a structure file that you're looking for, we have a limited number of transactions that are supported, mostly regarding manufacturing environments. But if there's not a structure file that is there that you need, let us know, and we'll take a look at trying to get it for you. Number three, validations. Validations is not automatic. You have to do validations inside the map itself. So if you expect a field or an element in some segment, you expect that to be there, then you need to put that expectation and that validation inside the map. Pros. The installation and setup of this application is very, very simple. It usually takes less than 5 minutes to install it, and it can be installed on a Linux and or a Windows desktop. The biggest pro of the application is the Java engine behind the mapping tool itself. You do have access to all Java functions, all methods, all syntax, in case you have to use that for any complex mapping situations. Now, most mapping situations don't require it. They're pretty much straightforward from one source field to a destination field. But if you have to use it, it's nice to know that you have that power of Java behind you. And finally, it is a free tool. It is an open source application, much like the BlueSeer ERP itself. It's downloadable at BlueSeer.com. It is free and it is open source, and the source is available at the GitHub project site. Okay, what we're going to look at real quick today is the mapping syntax and methods that are used. We're going to walk through creation of a map record and its associated metadata and the map file itself. We're going to compile it, and then we're just basically going to look at an overview of all the navigation and the functionality of the toolbar and what the editor provides. So with that said, let's get to launching it. Now I'm launching this on a Linux Mint operating system, but the functionality is exactly the same on a Windows box. So we're going to launch BlueSeer. Login and password is admin and admin respectively. And to enter the editor, just before I do that, let me actually show you where under address and EDI menu, all the EDI functionality is under the EDI menu. And there's a map maintenance tool here. But as a shortcut to get to the map editor, just type in the word map in the navigation text box and press enter. And this is the editor. Okay, you have an input panel, a map panel, and an output panel. And then this is the associated metadata that is relative to the map that you create. Real quick, I'm going to show you an example of a map. So you can click on this icon here, and BlueSeer does come with a default download. It does come with 7 or 8 different maps for you to use for samples. So let's look at one of these BS 850 to IDOC. So here's an 850 to an IDOC translation map, and this is essentially the map. And this is the map metadata associated with this record. Now the two key points of any map is the inbound structure and the outbound structure, and that's controlled by the IFS and the OFS. If you right click on the input panel and click structure, whatever structure file is here in this inbound file structure will show up here. So let's do that, and this is your inbound file structure for an 850. Shows the ST to BEG, all the segments and the fields associated with those segments, and special data along with that. On the outbound side, you can do the same thing. You can right click, go to structure, and anything in the OFS, whatever you've chosen here, will show up here. And this is the outbound structure file for a IDOC orders 05 type. And then essentially this map maps from source file to destination file. And real quick, the same function or method is repetitively used over and over, and I think you'll get a feel for how the flow of the layout of the map is occurring. What you're doing here is the map segment takes 3 parameters. It takes a segment that you're writing to, it takes a field of that segment that you're writing to, and then a value. And the value can be a constant, as is the case for this here, or it can be a variable that you set, as we set up here, or it can be input from, for example, here. So we're getting the source file. Here's a good input example here. So if you actually look at a source file, I'm going to right click here and you actually get a sample file, input, sample data, and there's an 850 here. And you'll notice here that this get input is going to assign to this segment and to this field. It's going to get the N1 segment, the 4th element, and only the N1 that has in the first element an ST. So basically the N1 ST qualifier is going to get this value right here and assign it to this segment in this field. And then you'll notice this is repetitive. So you map a field, and each map segment occurrence is the mapping of a field, much like you would draw from a left side to a right side in proprietary software when you're creating the links. So it's a link, 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 and then you commit the segment at the end. And this is all relative to the outbound document. So essentially what you're doing is from a top-down approach, you're creating the structure of that outbound file. Okay, so we'll go back to structure here, and then pulls the structure here. So we're actually going to compile this map. It's already pre-compiled, but we're going to do it again. To compile, you hit the coffee cup. And if you have a successful compilation, this is the output that you'll see here. Compilation success equals true. For example, if you had a syntax error, let's say I left out the semicolon here, and you clicked the compilation, you will get an error message. Generally tell you the line number associated with that error. And here we're just missing a semicolon, so we put it back in, and then we compile again, and we're back to where we were. Now, the editing tool itself is essentially a Java class, as I said before. You do not have to be an expert at Java, but it does help to know some Java, and you will have to know at least 3 portions of Java. Not that you have to be an expert, but you do have to have some familiarity with it. Those 3 aspects of it are: you need to be able to understand how to assign a variable, how to create a variable and assign a variable. So this type block here, this is all Java, and you just need to know how to create a variable and assign a variable. The other thing is looping constructs. So for example, right here, here's a loop construct of a for each loop. For every occurrence of this N1, it's going to loop from here to here. And for every N1 occurrence that I have, it's going to repetitively do this map segment and commit segment over and over for however many i's that you have here, however many variable i's. So a loop structure is another Java aspect that you will have to learn. And then finally, string manipulation. There is a string class in Java that allows you to do, and it provides many methods for string manipulation. And that is a very helpful thing in this case, substring being one of those. There are some other methods that you can operate on strings, and the string class itself. Familiarity with that string class is very helpful. Okay, so let's clear all this. So click the clear button, and we're going to create a new record. We're going to say my map 2. I think I've already created another one in here, so I'm going to create my map 2. And once you highlight on that, it'll actually give you the source file for you to put your source data in. Now, you don't create a map, you don't edit the map right now, you have to create the metadata associated with it. So description is my map 2. And then this map is going to be an example of let's pick something here. Let's say we're going to go from an IDOC orders 05, and we're going to go to an 850x12 here. So your inbound structure is going to be IDOC orders 05, and your outbound structure is going to be an X12 850. So your document type has to be chosen as well. So this is this file structure format, but you also have to choose your document type. The inbound document type is going to be an 850 IDOC, which is here. And your outbound type is going to be simply an 850. Real quick, you'll notice that all of the document types are relative to the X12 specification or transaction type that is provided here. That's an arbitrary choice. BlueSeer chose to use this type of nomenclature to represent the document type, and it is relative to the X12. For example, you see a 855 database, 855 IDOC, JSON, Edifact, and XML. And you also have to choose your file type. So the file type for the orders 05 is a flat file on the inbound side, and the outbound side is an X12. And then that's it. You click the add button, and that'll commit your record. Now they'll go pull up that record, and I did have a map. So here's the one we just created, and now you can actually type in your map commands and create your map. You'll notice that the source file is disabled. That is because this path is set against or relative to this record that you just created, and you cannot change that. So that's essentially it. Let's look at some of the toolbars here. This is to create a new. This is actually get a map. This inspect will allow you to. Let's click on that there. Let's clear this. Click on the inspect, and it'll allow you to whatever you have in the inbound file structure. It'll allow you to overlay a source file, a sample file, over against this structure file. So for example, if I had an X12 850 and I wanted to look at a sample file, I'll click overlay, choose 850, there's my sample file. And what it will do is it'll overlay the sample file against the structure file that is stated right here in this drop-down selection box. And you'll see that you'll have, for example, the BEG segment. It'll tell you the landmark, but it'll also tell you the field names, the value that was in field 1, the value that was in field 2, and then it'll also give you the value length, because sometimes white spaces can cause you some confusion. So it gives this extra information of the source file itself overlaid against this structure file. This is the clear button. Oh, by the way, when you click on this, if you need to go back to the all three panels, click clear button, and then we're about to do that right now. If you can hide these individual panels, and then to pull back all three panels, just click the eyeglass here. Okay, and real quick, we're actually going to execute one of the files. So let's pull up the map again, and we're going to pull up the 850 to IDOC since we already have that as an example. We're going to choose our input file, sample data, Acme 850, And since we're going to compile it again, but we've already compiled it once, so it's true. And then we're going to execute it. So this button here is an execution of this map against this data to create outbound data. And here's your IDOC in the output section. And then these two buttons here, left shift just shows the right hand side of the panels. It closes one panel versus the other. So if I click this, it shows the map and the output. If I choose the right shift, it shows the input and the map. And to get back to all three panels, just click the eye here. Okay, and then lastly, this zip button essentially will zip up the inbound file structure, the outbound file structure, the map itself. If you have any questions or concerns about your map and you want somebody to take a look at it, you can zip it up. It'll create a zip file for you. It'll also ask you for a sample file, open test data file to be zipped. We're going to choose this guy, and it'll tell you that it created a map.zip file in the EDI directory. And then you can email that map.zip file as necessary if you're looking for some support. Okay, that's it. Hopefully that's under 30 minutes. And I know there's a lot. Well, before we get to that, let me actually show a couple more things. If you right click on the input side, you can do search. We can search for the BEG segment, and it'll tell you the number of occurrences, and it'll highlight it. You can right click it and clear highlights, and that'll give you a way to actually search for certain values, certain text within your files, and that's on all three panels. Hex replace will allow you to replace hex characters or characters here represented by their hex value. So for example, if you got some 0Ds, a hex value, which is the carriage return, you can do 0D and a pipe symbol, and then whatever you want to replace the 0Ds with the hex value, let's say with 0A, or just blank, you want to get rid of the 0Ds, and that will do that. Okay, what else we have here? The input is to grab your input file. Structure is to show the structure of this file. You can download this file here on the left. You can also do that on the right as well, as far as once you created your file, you can download that. And then, again, you can hide the panels as necessary. The identify link here will essentially look at the data that you have in your input file, and if it recognizes a trading partner configuration and a map associated with this file, it will tell you what that is. So this actually did find a partner record. So we do have a trading partner record for this Acme trading partner that has this GS sender ID and this GS receiver ID from here to here. All right, that's essentially it for the navigation of the mapping editor. Let's go back to our little presentation here. We do have two other videos, and hopefully we're under 30 minutes. The other two videos are to show the configurations to be able to use these maps that you just created, configurations for the trading partner and the transaction, because sometimes you have to create document recognition rules particularly for flat files. If you have an IDOC for an SAP type of implementation, I do believe JD Edwards has their own type of flat file. Microsoft 365, they also have their own proprietary type flat file. So you'd have to actually create those document recognition rules so that the engine will be able to recognize that format. Then processing and reporting will be the last video, and we'll actually walk through creating a kind of a production environment where you can drop your files in your import directory, run them through the translation engine, and be able to look at the outbound files as well. And then any transaction reporting, whether the transaction was successful or failures or whatever the case may be. Okay, with that said, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to this contact information. And particularly if you come across a transaction that is not provided, that we do not have a structure file for, let me know, and I will see what I can do to get you that structure file. The website is BlueSeer.com. You can download the software there. There's an email, and then if you're interested, you can go to the project source site at github.com/BlueSeerERP. And I'm also available on LinkedIn as well. So if you need to reach out, feel free to do so. All right, thank you.